Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are breaking down the Los Angeles Chargers 2024 NFL schedule. We're going to give you guys the lowest possible floor you can expect and hopefully the highest possible ceiling that you will see with the Chargers this season. We're going to break it down here in a second, but before we get into it, if you have not already, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tackle that bell to get notified when new Chargers videos come out. The NFL season is right around the corner, and for week one, Ryan and I, we will be doing a Chargers weekly prediction video. And as I said, weekly, every single week, there's going to be a Chargers prediction video. So tackle that bell to get notified when those videos come out. So, Ryan, let's get into it here. And so with the Chargers schedule coming up, obviously they have new coach in Jim Harbaugh. They let go of their top receivers. Quentin Johnson has been getting trashed on Twitter throughout this entire training camp. And so I'm curious to see how he goes in overall develop. But when I look at the start of their schedule here, as we're going kind of straight into it, week one, hosting Las Vegas, week two at Carolina, week three at Pittsburgh, week four, hosting Kansas City, week five, bye, and week six, Denver. You've got a tough game against the Raiders, but they do have their faults. Obviously, Kansas City, not good at all, one of the worst teams in the league. Obviously, being very facetious here. In general, though, relatively easy start to these first five games for the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think you look at really 4 out of the 5 of those games, they're definitely winnable for this team. Especially, I think you look this offensive line. If Rashawn Slater can stay healthy, like they have a great tackle duo now. This defensive line still has Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. They're going to be more physical in the trenches with Harbaugh as the coach already. So hopefully those guys can come in and make some plays. I think like it kind of pains me to say because I have lower expectations of the Chargers. I think they could start out 4-1 as their ceiling because I think you can make a case that they beat Las Vegas, Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Denver. I do think 1-4 is probably the floor though. I could see them come out with a big flop there and really struggle early, especially you look, Las Vegas has a good pass rush. Carolina, I think, is the only team that I am really favoring them in just because Carolina is so weak in the trenches. Pittsburgh also has playmakers on the offensive side of the ball and has a good pass rush. Kansas City was going to beat them. Denver, I think, is another one. Maybe 2-3 is the floor.
So that's what I was going to say. I was going to be convinced on Pittsburgh. I was already thinking Pittsburgh. But Carolina and Denver, though, even as of right now, I would probably, especially Carolina in week two, it's going to take a couple of weeks for me to see if Carolina is actually legit or not.
Yeah.
Denver, though, they need Bo Nix as the starter. That's if he's still going to be the starter there, it'd be great to see Zach Wilson actually take off under Sean Payton. That'd be funny. That Broncos video is coming out also. But I think 2-3 is going to be the floor, in my opinion. Now, we've talked about this over the past couple of these videos as well. Could they lose to Carolina and Denver and technically go 0-5? Yes, that is a possibility. But that is probably not likely. I mean, I think 2-3 is probably the most likely floor that they can go and experience. We could nitpick this. Shoot, if we think they're going to go 4-1, heck, I mean, they maybe could beat Kansas City, yes, but probably not. They're probably not going to be favored.
Yeah.
So 2-3 floor during that stretch, 4-1 ceiling as well. Going into week 7 at Arizona on Monday Night Football. Week 8 hosting the New Orleans Saints. Week 9 at the Cleveland Browns. Week 10 hosting Tennessee Titans. Week 11 hosting the Bengals. And then week 12 hosting the Ravens here. So pretty unique stretch here as well because you have 3 of the best teams in the AFC on paper in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Baltimore, all AFC North. And then 3 teams who are supposed to be improved this year in Tennessee, New Orleans, and Arizona. So are the Chargers, obviously, supposed to be improved as well. I will say floor is obviously going to include 3 losses to Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. I'm thinking maybe then if they lose one of the other ones as well,
2-4.
2-4 would be a fair floor.
I think that's good because My only thing is I think Arizona probably beats them. Arizona looked pretty good last year in terms of just effort, and I think now they have more young talent. They have more of Jonathan Gannon's players in there. But New Orleans and Tennessee, I think, are kind of toss-ups. The, the Chargers definitely win in the quarterback battle um, in
Oh
both
yeah,
of those matchups, but it is hard to kind of say whether that they would win. I think 2-4 is a good floor through this stretch. 3-3 is probably the ceiling.
that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah,
It's like they can win the games, and I think that they can probably beat the other three teams.
yeah,
Um, because I'm trying to think that too, like what would make it 4-2? Like which of these teams, Cleveland, Cincinnati, or Baltimore, would I think that they have a legitimate chance of beating? As I've already said, technically they could beat all of them, but like I'm trying to convince myself that 4-2 is a possibility. But who on paper as of right now, who do you think would be their best chance to win amongst those three AFC North teams?
Cincinnati
Right? Like
probably. Yeah,
that's what I'm struggling to
yeah.
think like maybe Cincinnati, yes, but also too it's kind of playing with
Cincinnati is a little to me a little too beefed up in the trenches for them, and also you look Jamar Chase, T Higgins, both of those guys
yeah,
compared to who on the Charger side.
yeah.
So, I,
So okay, let's
and
stick with three
then
and three.
the last stretch of 6 games here, week 13 at Atlanta, then at Kansas City, then they host Tampa Bay and Denver in weeks 15 and 16, and then they wrap up with 2 road games at New England and at Las Vegas. Um, I think 3-3 is the ceiling again. Um, at Atlanta, at Kansas City, and Tampa Bay, I think are probably losses. I think one Kansas City is just better than them right now. At Atlanta, that's going to be a road game across the country. Atlanta has, I think, too many playmakers for them at the moment. And then Tampa Bay is going to be vying for a wild card spot in the NFC, and I don't think the Chargers are going to be in the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay is going to be above average this year, and I think the Chargers are a below average team
Or
for
below
right now.
average. So 3-3.
Yeah,
Did we say 2-4 is a floor again as well?
yeah. I mean, I think they'll beat Denver at New England in Week 17. Will be interesting for a uh,
South California team up in
South
Boston.
California team. I think that'll be interesting. A dome team going to New England. I think that'll be an interesting matchup. And then at Las Vegas, um,
I could do 1-5. I could be convinced for 1-5.
I don't want to do. I think 2-4 is probably good. I think that's a realistic floor. I think so.
Okay.
Would that put them?
So
So
that
what is
would put
that?
their floor at 6-11 and their ceiling at 10-7.
Ten
Uh,
seven. I
it
think
is
that's about
unique.
right.
I think it's unique because your offseason recap, you predicted them 5-12. I actually predicted them at 9-8.
Yeah.
So we're both a little bit on kind of the extreme ends. I will say I think this team is going to be better than people initially expect because it was such a just a horrible year last year. I think a lot of their problems had to evolve around Brandon Staley. So yes,
Yeah.
they moved on from receivers like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. For being honest, though, how I'm curious. Chargers roast me in the comments, but how good was Mike Williams really? In my opinion, I feel like over the past couple of years he hadn't been the elite player that they had wanted him to be. Now, Keenan Allen, that's going to be a loss. But at the same time, though, too, he's 32 or
Yeah.
33. So he's getting older. So I get why I'm moving on from him.
Mhm.
So I I think you still roll the dice with Quinn Johnson, and then Justin Herbert's fantasy stats definitely might suffer this year. But I think those are the right steps moving forward. But I think they can I think Jim Harbaugh can he's an experienced coach. He's been around for a little while. I think he's going to win games that Brandon Staley would have definitely lost when put in these situations. So I think it's going to help out their record a lot. My 9-8 prediction might be a little lofty. I think 7-10, 8-9 might be a little more realistic, but they're going to win some games against some good teams this year.
Yeah, and that's my thing too. Especially going back and looking at their schedule, they play a lot of like the fringe playoff teams. Like they play Las Vegas twice. Denver's bad. So that's 4 games right there. They play Carolina, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, and New England. So that's 8 games that are
plausible,
like
that are
very, very winnable. Where and they're further along in the rebuild, I think, than teams like New England and Carolina because they know they have their quarterback in Justin Herbert. But like you go look at New England's schedule. New England has the second toughest schedule of any team in the league, and they finished last in their division and like completely shredded that offense. So you go and then like Carolina, second year quarterback, first year head coach, a bunch of new weapons. They traded their best player for 2 second-round picks. Like they're in the midst of a rebuild as well, and they're just like a year ahead, I think, of like some of the other teams. So it'll be interesting to see. Tennessee also I left off the list, so it'll be interesting to see kind of where they end up at the end of this season. So let's go ahead and wrap it up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the Los Angeles Chargers offseason, and let us know what you think their floor and ceiling will be in 2024. And on that, we'll see you guys next time.